points to make sure.
Well, so I'll give you my normal disclaimer, which is I tend to talk for England and I get a little bit passionate about dynamics. So if you do have any questions, do feel free to butt in at any point with any of those, because I'd be happy to answer them for you. With also my standard disclaimer is if I'm doing a demo and typing, I will inevitably make 100 typing mistakes because that's just something that I do when I know other people are watching. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yep. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so what you should see is one of the main features of Dynamics 365, which is the dashboards. And for you guys, dashboards are designed to be a central repository for information that's relevant to you as an individual or your team. So you might have a sales one, a sales admin one, and a financy type focused one. I know that for you guys, the communication is the main thing. So I will just briefly go over what a sales journey looks like. And I know that that's not hugely the focus for you, but I think it might make sense just for you to see it in action. So that's what we're going to start with. But just back to our dashboards, you'll see in this instance my dashboard is made up of a couple of charts and some views of information. So for example, in this scenario, I've got a pipeline, so all of the opportunities that I've got open at the moment, also looking at the stage that those opportunities are at and the total value of all opportunities in those stages. Now, I will just also mention that this is very much a demo platform, so I'm not as effective as I'm looking as a salesperson as I'm looking at in this pipeline. But one of the benefits of these charts is that you have the ability to drill down in on them. So in this instance, I might want to look at, well, I've got a load of opportunities stuck in this orange phase, which means I've developed them, but I haven't sent them a proposal or even a contract yet. So I might want to drill down and see, okay, well, when were they due to close? What was the estimated close date? Most of them are due to close in August. Okay, so that's fine. So I've got a couple of months to get those in. None of them are in the past. So that's also equally good. Right, I need to know what's going on in August so that I can manage my team. I might want to see who the owner of these opportunities are, so that I can communicate with them about what they're about. All of them are me, very positive. I'll have a chat with myself about what's going on in August. But at any point, you can go back up a step or indeed go back to where you started from to see that pipeline from afresh. As well as being able to drill down in on the data within it, you can also pop out that chart, see the visual representation of those opportunities and drill down in on it to see the actual opportunities that make them up. So let's say I'm having a particularly ineffective day and I want to actually close some of these opportunities that are really close to closing. I can select that portion of the chart and see them on the left-hand side. Brilliant. Couple there that I might want to just follow up on that are due to close pretty soon. So that's the pipeline. Now next up, this is where I think Dynamics is really going to come into its own for you guys. We have what's dubiously entitled the Relationship Assistant, which doesn't remind you to sort of compliment your wife, but it does analyze all of the records that you're working with, and it makes suggestions on the next actions you should take. So in this instance, you'll see that I've actually not had a lot of activity with many of my leads and my opportunities. And so Dynamics is encouraging me to do just that. So maybe I want to speak to Mr. O'Connor or Mrs. Higgins. Now, as well as activities and contacts and accounts and opportunities that it'll encourage you to have communication with, it also analyzes your email and says, oh, you've just received an email from so-and-so, he's requesting a meeting, would you like me to create the meeting for you? So it's fairly accurate in terms of making assessments on what steps it thinks you should take, and then guides you to take those steps. And it's ever improving, so it's using Microsoft's AI technology to do that. Here's a good example. There's been an issue that's been detected in this email. Do I want to create a case in CRM for it, or perhaps deal with it that way? Brilliant. What's more, again, another feature I think would be useful for CenCon is the What's New channel. What's New is essentially like our Twitter or a Facebook-esque feed for everyone within the organization. So as users of CRM, you can follow all of your colleagues or people in your team, and whenever anyone makes an update to a record or posts something about them, you can see it presented here. So for example, I can see that Ian has increased the probability of one of these opportunities from 0 to 3%. Great work, Ian. I might want to like that. I could even reply to it. Now that will not only appear in his dashboard as it appears for me, but it will also appear on the opportunity itself. So he's got no opportunity to miss. And for an organisation like yours where there's a lot of travel involved, this does just become a central little stream of information. You can also make one-off posts here, which will then be presented to whoever follows you. And you can even include records within Dynamics in this. So let's say I might want to say, good work on a certain opportunity. There's my classic not being able to type when other people are watching. Good work, Wendy, for example. And that will now appear on Wendy's dashboard and also on any other record that I've copied into that post. So I'll say just a nice little central repository. Moving on this example dashboard, we've then got overviews of if I had any leads, again, not a very successful business person, if I had any, they'd appear here by where they came from. I've then got my opportunities, so which ones are looking like the most valuable to me, and quite nicely I've then got a little look at the customers that I've worked with and who have made me the most money, essentially, so who I need to send a bottle of wine to at Christmas. And then finally, I've got my list of activities. Now, you'll probably be familiar with these, but these are either phone calls, tasks, emails, or appointments that have been created in Dynamics and synced to Outlook, or created in Outlook and synced to Dynamics about my record. So here you can see I've got a phone call about this opportunity. I've got a task to follow up with an invoice up to this contact, and then some other stuff for other accounts and opportunities. But these are tasks that I've either created for myself, have been automatically created for me, or have been created by someone else and assigned to me. My all-time favorite feature in Dynamics, the ability to assign to someone else. But either way, I can see that I've got 56 activities that are outstanding. Now, if we just take, I mentioned, we'll just take a very basic example of a sales journey, if you like, for want of a better word. The sales journey always starts at lead. So let's take Cameron Davis as an example. Now, leads are designed for use for things like perhaps data that you've acquired, or indeed if you've attended a seminar or a conference and you want a repository with which to just put in as much information as you can, but you don't know a huge amount, and you might want to qualify it out from a lead when you know that they are particularly interested in going ahead with one of your solutions. So in this instance, we've got Cameron Davis. A couple of things just to point out within a lead. Top right-hand corner, we've got key information that's relevant to you guys. So it might be similar to this, where it's which campaign did they come from, which if they've been referred by anyone, who was it, and what's their status? Are they new or have they been contacted? And this is particularly useful if you're importing lots of data, say from business card draws or from data you've bought, because that's just a nice little flag to show that someone has spoken to them. Next up, and quite importantly, we have the business process bar, this green bar that sits across the top of the record that guides whoever's working on this type of record through the key quality gates and key questions to establish the intention with it, in this instance, Cameron. So for example, do we know where he's come from? Has he got a current platform? Has he got a current provider? Does he have the money and the authority? So I can just mark these as correct as and how I see fit. Now, one thing that's worth bearing in mind is you can have additional steps. So for you guys, it might be what's really important to understand in the first place is perhaps what region they're based in, and do they have a current supplier, and what product are they offering that you want to support. You can say if they've got more, I don't know, offices in Asia, you might want to add a new tab that asks questions about the sales journey in Asia. It might be slightly different. So you can show and hide different things dependent on the answers to the questions in this process bar. So I'll just shrink that up so we can look at the rest of the lead. We then also have our generic contact information here. I've got my central panel, which I think is the most important part of Dynamics. This brings together, the social pane brings together a number of key tabs. Firstly, we've got our posts, which is those automatic when a record's created or it's changed, or manual updates. Quite often we recommend using this for, I don't know, bits of snippets of information we know about this lead or the contact or account that we're talking about. We then have our assistant, which is the suggestions of activity that Dynamics has worked out for us. Right, there's been no activity, so we definitely need to pick up with him. Next up, we've got our activities panel, which demonstrates key, in this instance, activities that have been either tracked from Outlook or created directly in Dynamics. So here I can see there's been some emails that have been tracked that Ian has sent to Cameron. I can preview that. Brilliant. It's at this point I might also want to make a record of other phone calls that I've had with this lead in this instance. So let's say he's phoned in and he's requested some more information. I can make a record of that. I can mark if it's a phone call that's scheduled to happen in the future, I can record that, but this is one that's just happened, so I'll leave that blank. I can even say who else was involved in the call. Perhaps Wendy was also involved in it too, and I can decide which direction it was going in. When I'm happy, I click OK, and that phone call then sits in our central panel as an activity that's been completed. Now, it might be out the back of that phone call that I've had with Cameron that there's an additional task I need someone else to do, or I need to just schedule for the future. I can do that straight from within the social pane too. So I'm going to, in true Lucy fashion, assign this off to someone else. Right, so I've given Wendy a bit of a description as to what to happen. I'll give her a bit of time to do it. I'll give her a week. I'm feeling generous. And I will remove my name from the owner and assign it off to Wendy. Click OK. Now you'll notice that that activity now appears in white, i.e. it's outstanding, it's still to be completed. And that activity not only sits on Cameron's lead record, but also sits on Wendy's dashboard and within her list of tasks within Outlook. So she's got literally zero opportunity to forget to follow up with Cameron. And importantly, on her mobile app. You'll also notice, as well as phone calls and tasks, we can create emails and appointments straight from Dynamics too and send them straight from here. So it's nice and easy, and you can build in templates and templated emails with things like, hi, first name, thanks for your interest in our product, kind regards, name of the person sending the email. So it's really quite useful in terms of speeding up your activity. Next up, one thing I did just want to show you, which I would think would be fairly useful in your industry, is this panel on the right-hand side called Insights. Now, Insights is an add-on to Dynamics that basically reaches out onto online sources and brings back as much information about that individual or that contact that Insights can find about them using the 350 or so online sources that it has available to it, and presents it in 4 different ways. So as you'll see here, it's found all of the contact information for T-Vision. I've got a couple of different options here. I can pop T-Vision onto a watch list, which means whenever anything happens to them, a blog post is released, a press article, an acquisition notice, I'm going to get an email to that effect. I can also sync the data that Insights has found. I can compare it to what I know about T-Vision, and I can decide what I would like to come straight into my record. So it's helping me keep my data cleansed as well by demonstrating the information it's found, which in this example is brilliant because it's found the turnover, the number of employees, all this really vital information that I need, and all I had was the phone number. So I'll update that, and it brings that information straight back into Dynamics. As well as the contact information and the watch list, we've also got these 4 other tabs. So first up, Insights, which will show us any blog posts or press releases, news articles, key bits of information that that may be useful in helping us have conversations with this client. Hasn't found anything in this instance. But I've also got our family tree. I've got a very bad demonstration for you guys, sorry about that. And call prep questions that I might be able to ask an organisation of this kind. So it's really quite a valuable little tool. But back to our lead. Let's say that we've spoken to Cameron, Wendy's followed up with him, she's given him some more information on our machines, and now he's really interested in perhaps taking this through to a piece of business. I can now qualify my lead. And by qualifying my lead, it creates one of 3 records. It creates Cameron as a contact. It creates T-Vision Technology as an account. And importantly, it also creates an opportunity where we can start to record when we think the business might come in, how much revenue it would generate for the organisation, and gives us a place to start to create quotes and orders indeed. I know that's probably something you probably handle in your ERP system. So we'll leave this at the point of opportunity where we can start to sort of track where the sales come from, what stage it's at, when, as I say, when we think it's likely to close. What you'll notice is it's taken us to the next stage of the business process bar from where we were at within the lead. It's asked us to describe the situation he's in, grab a bit more information about the key stakeholders, when we think it's likely to close. So I think it's going to come in by the end of the month, and I think it's going to generate quite a bit of money for us, and I think there's a fairly high likelihood we're going to get the opportunity. And for us, it's important to know then the weighted revenue. So you might have something similar, because all of this information that we're capturing on an individual level, we can then assess as a whole across our organisation, or indeed across key individuals. Brilliant. And then assuming that Cameron is interested, he wants this piece of work that we're going to offer for him, I can close the opportunity as won or as lost. So that's a very sort of whistle-stop tour of the sales journey. But I know what's really key to you guys is the ability to sort of see the kind of communication that's gone on with your current clients and your accounts and your contacts. So I'm going to just navigate quickly to now a list of my accounts. Whilst it's doing that, let's just take a look at what an account looks like. So within an account record, you'll notice it looks incredibly similar to what a regular all the other records in Dynamics looks like. It's got our header bar in the top right hand corner, which assesses the key fields that are relevant to us. We've got our account information on the left hand side, addresses and things like that, and we've got our consistent social pane, which sits in the middle of the record, which allows us to see if there's any recent history, recent activity, our posts, things that have automatically happened with this client, and the activity that it thinks that we should complete. Now, as you'll notice, this activity list really does get quite long with the length of time that the client has spent with you. So we can use the filter in the top right-hand corner to drill down in on the type of activity we want to look at. So let's say I just want to have a look at phone calls that we've had with Heptagon, or indeed appointments or tasks that have been completed, rather than all of the huge amount of emails that are in there. Also on the account record, we can record key we can see all of the opportunities that have been opened with that account. In this instance, there's just the one, and we won it, and we won it fairly early on this year in April. We've got a link to all of the contacts that work at that account, which I can pop out and see in more detail if I want to. Importantly, I can also, if I use the drop down next to the name of the account and the ribbon at the top, I can navigate to a list, anything else that's related to this account. For example, if they've recommended any other opportunities to us, we can keep an eye on that too. I can even link that to SharePoint. So if you store documents against accounts, that can link straight off into your online version of SharePoint, and CRM becomes the central repository for all information. Okay.
Can you show us a contact record again, Liz?
Absolutely. So let's go to the primary contact for Heptagon. In fact, I had a fairly good demo ready here. Someone you might recognise. So a contact record looks, again, very similar. So the social pane down the middle, the key details on the left, and for us we have this this Insights panel too, which shows us the information that Insights has found and a link to the LinkedIn profile. One of the other things that as an organisation we found quite useful is the ability to mark certain records as sensitive. Sensitive might not be the right vocab for you, but it might be something like, have a key overview, or keep an eye on, or just a notification. Because what this does is we switch that sensitive flag to yes, and we put in a little message. This won't be accurate, just for reference.
Insights is all wrong.
Yes, yeah, it's gone to same contact.
It's taking the wrong data, which is always going to be the problem. And I suppose it's the individual to say that it's correct.
So you've got to wait.
Yes, you see
Ball, which
how's it all fit in?
So in terms of their preferences, so say we wanted to talk to Richard about one of our product ranges only, do you keep that data in this sort of field or not?
Absolutely, you could do, or we could indeed give you a specific field that's relevant to that. What we offer is an overview of things like that, is to give you a couple of fields that are most relevant. And you might want a drop-down box or a selection pick list. So Richard's interested in 3D printing and, a certain one of your CAM machines.
Okay.
So he could be interested in more than one or just the one.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a bit of personalisation you can do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, because I've marked Richard as sensitive, I've just gone...
We can do that, or do you have to do that?
Either, really. We can either go through with you how to do it, or we can do it on your behalf. What we normally suggest is we would do the basics for you to get you started, and then we would have a training session with a dedicated individual to demonstrate how that can be done again in the future.
Okay.
So this is just the demonstration of the sensitive flag. Because I've marked Richard's contact record as sensitive, I have to physically click on OK to get past the sensitive message to go into his contact record.
Can you do that against accounts as well?
Yes, you absolutely can. Yeah, you absolutely can. So we have it against accounts, contacts, and opportunities, because there might be something really key on an opportunity that we don't want perhaps someone to call them until the tender date's been released or something like that. Brilliant. Now this is quite a good demonstration of what the thing I wanted to show you next, which is how Dynamics integrates into Outlook. So Dynamics' integration into Outlook has become really, really good in the last few years, and it's provided some really good insight into what's gone on with that particular client. So in this instance, you can see that there's a whole bunch of emails and communication that's gone on with Richard that either myself or my colleagues have chosen to track into Dynamics. So anything that's grey is highlighted as something that everyone can see, and it's a completed activity. But you'll notice at the top I've got these 2 emails that are in white, and you'll notice that they haven't been tracked. So this is where Dynamics has reached into my inbox, found this email that Richard has either sent or received, and said, here's email. So I've got a continuous thread of all email with Richard, some of which are just specific to me and some of which I know that the rest of the team can see. And at this point I can hit track, and Dynamics will reach into my inbox and pull that email in so that everyone else can see it. So it's quite nice. I can sort of blend sensitive emails that I don't want other people to see and emails that I've chosen other people can see, but all in one view of the client.
And does it do that not through Outlook? It does that straight into Exchange?
Absolutely, straight into Exchange. So it's listening out to the Exchange server for you. Now that brings me nicely onto what I wanted to show you next, which was how Outlook now integrates into Dynamics. Because as I say, it's come an awfully long way since the last time that we spoke. So let's take this email. Let's take a bit more of a better email from Richard as an example. Forgive me. I didn't do my normal disclaimer of this is my live mailbox, so if there's anything dodgy, I'm very much the recipient, not the sender. Although I think I'm good in this case. So here we go. So this email from Richard. So I can see in this instance, I definitely need other people within my team to be able to see this. So I've got my Dynamics 365 button in the ribbon at the top, which when I hit it, Dynamics says, do I know Richard, the sender? Do I know all of the recipients? If I do, tell me what I know about them, and displays it nicely on the right hand side here. So I can preview what I know about all of these records or what other people have found. If there's any outstanding activity, perhaps there's a meeting scheduled or a phone call scheduled, that would also appear here too. Now at the moment this is just telling me what it knows. It hasn't taken a copy of this email and put it into Dynamics. It's not until I hit track that that happens. So it's now put it against all of those people, but importantly I can now say, actually I want it to also sit against my SendCon opportunity. So I can use my global search to find that opportunity. There it is at the bottom. and it then brings in all of the information it knows about that opportunity straight into Outlook. From here, I've got a couple of options. I might want to also schedule myself a task for the future, or indeed, I may want to schedule my task against the contact that this email's about. But for clarity, this email is now sitting against this opportunity and against all of these contacts.
Could you do that at the time of sending the email, Lucy, or is it once it's been sent?
Very good question. We absolutely can. So if I go as if to send Richard an email, and I click the Dynamics 365 button, what I quite like about this is it does exactly the same thing again. So it's telling me what it knows about Richard, if it indeed knows them, and anything that's outstanding. And it gives me at that point the ability to put in a Dynamics 365 email template too. So I can see, okay, there's nothing outstanding with Richard. I'm good to email him. I might want to select my template. Let's take this one as an example. I can add it straight to my email. These templates can, of course, be shared with the team or not. They could be personal or system, available for everyone. I can send my email. Apologies, Richard, you're going to get a spammy email now in your inbox. But one thing that's, you can feel free to delete it. One thing that's quite important to highlight, I think, is this follow button on the right-hand side. So when we go as if to send our email, we can hit follow, and because we're tracking Richard's activity, he's not going to get a read receipt or anything like that, and he's not going to know that we're following his activity with this email, but Dynamics will tell us when he's opened it, which is quite nice, both in Dynamics itself and if we track any other email from him.
As far as the emails are concerned from Dynamics, when you're actually in the Dynamics and the profile, if I sort of understood that correctly, someone has to make the decision for everyone else to be able to see that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's the default setting, yes. You can automatically track all of your emails if you want to.
Oh, and can you do that on a mailbox by mailbox basis?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking of, say, like you've got, I don't know what it is, like, is it tech at Cloud 2020 or something like that?
Exactly.
And so one of the things that would be interesting is that you email, say, tech at Cloud 2020, would it go in and automatically create is it cases they call them?
That's right, yeah, exactly that. That is exactly what happens in our instance. Yeah, or you might have sales at zencon.co.uk and it creates a lead.
So in the case of, for example, Richard, our sales director, he could effectively ensure that he sees all of the emails associated with the customer.
Absolutely, that's another approach you could take. So everyone that works beneath Richard, it may be the case that all of the people in your sales team, if they receive an email from someone that Dynamics knows, a lead, a contact, or an account, it will automatically track. We normally suggest don't have everything track, because if you have you get like Waitrose contacts created or things like that. So yes, you can take a different approach depending on the person and also depending on the email address.
Well, I guess so it's a selective approach then in terms of what users want other people to see.
Exactly. You've got it.
No idea, that's why we track or we don't track. Yeah.
So the final thing I just wanted to show you about, let me just get this other demonstration ready for you on another screen a second. The final thing about Outlook that's really, really useful and something I use when I very rarely have my sales hat on is, let's say you receive an email. This is an email that I know I need to create as a lead because she's asked for, she's just found the email off the website, whatever, and I've hit the Dynamics button and Dynamics doesn't know her at all. She's not a record in there yet. At all. The person she's CC'd in is, that's interesting, but she isn't. You'll notice I've got the ability to add my contact or lead straight to Dynamics from Outlook, so I don't have to switch applications. So if I hit create, I can then go ahead and create my lead straight from within here. I can put in my referrer, all the basic information, and hit save. Likewise, I can create opportunities or cases straight out of emails that I have received. For example, I can choose what I want to set this email regarding, or I've got the ability, as I say, to create that new record straight from Outlook. So it is really, it's by far, I know, Richard, you've probably had experience with the previous version of the interaction between Dynamics and Outlook, and this is by far and away much improved.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to make it worse, to be honest. So.
That's very true, very true. Now, the final thing I just want to show you, and it's just loading on my other screen, so we'll give it a second, is the Dynamics 365 app, which is available both on Windows tablet devices, iPhone, Android, and pretty much all operating systems. And it has offline capability, which I know for you guys when you're traveling sort of to the east is probably quite important. I bet Wi-Fi on planes and things like that, and in the remote districts of the manufacturing district in China, you probably don't get much Wi-Fi. And so that's where the Dynamics 365 app really comes into its own. So forgive me, it's just taking a few seconds to load, but looks very similar on both the tablet.
While it's loading, Lucy, one of the specific questions I had was to do with the customer support side. So could you just talk us through the workflow? So if I email, I can't remember what the email address is, but your support line, what actually happens?
Absolutely, I'll show you that. I just nip into another platform I've got to demonstrate that. One moment. So out of the box, Dynamics 365 comes with a case management platform where cases can be created, activity against those cases can be tracked. Oops, wait a second. And they can be resolved, or they can be escalated, or they can be assigned to other members of the sort of support team, if you like.
And this all happens without anybody. So if I email support at cloud2020.co.uk and no one's got Outlook open, no one does anything, the system generates the case on the back of the email.
You've got it. You've got it. So this
is at the moment, we believe it or not still use Dynamics for, and that functionality flat out doesn't exist. If you email, there has to be user interaction to do something to create anything. Nothing will be created automatically, really.
Or Outlook has to be open or something like that.
Outlook has to be open, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. No, that's not the case anymore. So pretty much all of these cases that we're looking at, so this is a live dashboard for one of our support people, all of these cases have been either created by an email, support at, tech at, whatever it is, or created from our support portal. So as part of Dynamics 365, you get one support portal which can be used for support, funnily enough, where you can provide from Dynamics users a login, a secure login, where they can log cases. I'll show you what ours looks like. It's not particularly glamorous because it's been designed by techies, but it's there nonetheless. So they can log in, they can see all of their active cases, all of the cases by other members of their team, all of which then feed straight into Dynamics itself. So within a case, once it's been created automatically, no matter where it's been created from, one thing that might be relevant to you that is very much relevant to a lot of our other support customers is you can provide a service level agreement and entitlement to each customer. So say Coke have a 2-hour SLA, but some of your smaller clients simply, you don't have to respond to them as quickly. Each time your case is created, it knows who the customer is and it picks up and it starts a countdown clock for each one of those cases. So in this instance, it's taken the content of the email and put it straight in the description. It's pulled all the information about which customer this has come from. It's telling me the entitlement, so I can see that this particular customer is allowed 5 cases. 5 cases a month to work on. I can see how many they've got left. So they've used 5 cases and they've got 4 left. They've used 1 case because they've got 4 cases left. And I can see who's been working on it. Let's just open that one up again. Sorry, my screen's jumping about a little bit. You can also, taking your scenario a step further, Richard, is you can depending on the client or the entitlement that the client has, automate your communications out the back of this. So you'll see we've got our social pane in a slightly different location here on the case record, but you'll notice that we've got an automatic email that says, thank you ever so much for submitting your case. It sends a link to the internal case manager to say deal with this case. Click here to access it. It sends an email to say what's going on with it, you know, does it need an update? And for us as well, we also, after 24 hours, if no action has been taken or it's still open, there has been action but it hasn't been closed, it emails the person dealing with the case to say, please pick up on this and make sure it gets resolved.
Okay. Very good.
Brilliant. One final thing just on the case is we can see other recent cases that clients had, but also similar cases that other clients have had that you might be able to use to help close this case.
Wow, clever.
Yeah.
Is that linked by product? Yeah.
By keyword, yes, exactly. Exactly. You can even go to the extent, and I don't have this as a demo in this platform, but you can go to the extent to have a Dynamics knowledge base, which picks out keywords from the case title and the case body and searches a centralized knowledge base to present articles that would be useful for closing the case.
Kind of like Microsoft use.
Exactly. You've got it. You've got it. So that's pretty much it. I'm not actually going to resolve that case, but you've got all the standard functionality. You've been able to filter on cases. So show me those that a certain person has closed within the last day, which one have closed, how many. We can see all the cases per client. So we can start to sort of picture which client's the most frustrating, provides the most hassle.
Leapfrog.
Leapfrog. They're very sweet though. They're a charity, so they're all right. They're allowed it. Now back to the app. So slightly different scenario.
Lucy, what's dictating the speed of this loading?
It's our horrendous Gloucestershire internet, I'm afraid.
Okay, so we're always going to be reliant on the local speed.
Yes, I'm afraid that is
A couple of times the wheels have turned round, so every time you're changing it, does it say stuff any of the stuff locally? Is it all done on the line?
No, it does cache a large amount of what the form looks like. So once you've opened the form once, it will obviously remember that that's the case for the next time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is particularly, I think it's my machine.
That's the same, I guess, with all the
So this is what the app looks like, and as I say, it just looks slightly different when the screen is smaller on the phone to when it's larger on your app, on your tablet. As with the desktop version, it presents to you your relationship assistant, your key favorite records that you're working on that you've pinned to the top, which you can then close off. It takes you then to your standard dashboard, which looks similar to your dashboard on your machine. And you can navigate through any of these records as and how you see fit. Very much like the online version. Personally, when I'm in sales mode, I actually prefer to use the app because I find it a little bit cleaner to look at, and I can split down my view of things by day, by week, by month, or indeed have it by list view if I want to. So it's just a slightly cleaner version. So this is a list of all of my open opportunities. Within an opportunity, it's much more tabular view. So I can click on any of these tabs to see if they've got any other opportunities and things like that. If we look at an account or a contact, let's take Little Cloud as an example. I think they've been deleted. Oh, geez. Let's go back and let's grab Simon as a lead. Within a contact, if they have a phone number, and if I'm on my phone, I can click on the phone number and it dials the phone straight away. If they've got an email address, I can click and access their email straight away and just drop them an email quickly from my phone. So something that's absolutely beneficial, sort of pre or post meeting, and you're sitting in a cab on the way to your next one, you can access that straight from your phone.
With the offline access, Does it work so that you can create activities or tasks or things like that, and then when you go back online, it uploads them as well as downloading anything?
Absolutely, Richard. Yeah. So it does. It basically says, Dynamics, is there anything new about your contacts or accounts? Bring it in. Anything that you've updated. So, you might spend a couple of hours on the plane updating your meetings that you've had, and they'll go straight back up as soon as you get to Starbucks in the arrivals. So yes, it's got full offline capability in that respect. So this is what our contact looks like in this scenario. One other thing that we use quite heavily is a third-party plugin that might be of benefit to you, which geolocates where our contacts and our accounts are. Might that be something of benefit?
I think we know mostly where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going out to see them, we certainly would.
Yeah. One thing that we do is if we're going out and we're making a specific trip to go and see a specific client, we might then map any other opportunities or contacts or accounts that are in that region as well. And then we can even use the same tool to go to the extent of planning the journey between each one of those opportunities.
I guess if you've got quite a few customers in one area, we don't tend to be like that. There's only a few cities that we have.
That's true. That's very true. Brilliant.
So unless it's going to teach us to go from Saudi Arabia to Iran or something.
Not quite so useful. Brilliant. All right then, guys. Well, that is a large amount of what I had to show you this afternoon. So in summary, 3 ways to access Dynamics: through the web browser, through Outlook, and also through the mobile and tablet app. Dynamics speaks really nicely to Outlook now, so tracking of communications, whether it be with prospective clients, or even with issues or internal issue resolution, can all be done in a much more seamless manner than previously was possible, both on and offline using the app.
I know we're not interested at the moment, but it does quotes as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it absolutely does. Takes to the extent of quotes.
Yeah.
So one of the questions,
The big question.
yeah, and this might not be one that you can answer right away, I'm not probably sure, is that depending on what level we use Dynamics for, should we use Dynamics, we would need to be able to import kind of programmatically, automatically, some data from our ERP system, and so it's either going to be contacts, and so contacts. And this is something we'd have to figure out how it would work, but contacts would be imported probably from ERP into Dynamics when they're created in ERP. And so what kind of functionality exists to do that?
There's a couple of ways with which we would suggest that. Sometimes there is an out-of-the-box connector to your ERP solution, which, forgive me, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now.
I doubt it. It's called Epicor.
Epicor, yes. If not, there's a couple of other options. So we can either do something like, if there's an automated way of spitting out a CSV file from Epicor into a central location somewhere, Dynamics can listen out for it and pull it in.
Okay.
Or alternatively, our best and probably the most appropriate suggestion is to use an integrations tool like the one we very much recommend is called Smart Connect, which can connect to multiple sources, not just your ERP, but perhaps you might have a form on your website or something like that for lead generation, can listen out for when anything's updated, puts it into its central repository and then pushes it into Dynamics, and equally can do the other way around if you want to.
Okay.
And
I guess that could be on any kind of entity, so that could be on a contact, on a quote, on anything.
On an invoice, anything. Yeah, absolutely. Any type of record. It would just be something we would help map out with you, and the frequency of when they sync, which fields sync, which way they go, if they update, if they create, things like that.
Okay.
Something
and that's
that we
you
do commonly.
with other clients.
Yes, very commonly. Pretty much every CRM deployment has an integration with an accounting platform or an ERP or something like that. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Perfect.
My favourite one is the guys that do lounges in airports, number one lounges, and they have a booking system, and that feeds into Dynamics. So against a client, they can see how many bookings they've had and the value of them, and which airport they've booked through, and which airline, etc. So they've got some really good analytics on which airlines making them the most money. But they transact about just over 20,000 bookings a day into CRM from their platform. So just to show you the capacity and the capability, that's just one example.
I think we'll be a fraction of that.
Yeah, I mean, something to work towards. Eh?
I'm sure we can go for that.
So Lucy, you've talked about this, you've talked about a couple of add-ins, but everything else is a standard out-of-the-box feature.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the only add-ins I've shown is the Insights tool and the Map tool.
Okay,
Cool.
okay. So if we decide to go with it, we'd get all that straight out.
Yes, yeah.
And in terms of customization, if we want to configure it to our particular requirements, I presume we can add fields to records, do things like drop-down boxes and that.
Absolutely. Pretty much everything you see can be customized. And as I mentioned, we can either make suggestions from what we've seen that has worked in previous similar scenarios and do it for you and then show you how we did it, or guide you through doing it yourself.
Is it only available as a service, like kind of like the rest of the 365 stuff, or is it available in the kind of the old-fashioned model of buying the software, installing it locally, and managing it yourself?
It is available, but it won't be supported for a huge amount longer on premise, and they've made it very cost prohibitive to go that way. And they don't do the updates as much. You get quite a lot of updates with the cloud-based version. But just on that note, earlier on this year, about a couple of months ago, the cloud-based CRM as a service, if you like, was made available in a UK data center.
Yes.
So same with Azure. You've probably noticed.
Yeah, I got some notification about it. I don't know why, but Microsoft decided to email me about that specifically.
They probably thought you might be interested in it.
Yeah. Okay.
In terms of users, is there just one complete set of access, or if somebody just wants to read it, can you have different user levels?
Very good question. There's two different license types. There's sort of an enterprise function specific one, which is split up into customer services and sales. So I'd imagine the likes of Richard and Siobhan would probably need the full sales access. Richard Craddock, you'd need the customer service. However, there is what's called a team license, which gives you read and write access to opportunities, but you can only create accounts and contacts. So it's quite a good little license that's much lower cost than the sales license. But it basically means you can add activities to things that already exist.
So that means that if the case gets created automatically by the system, then someone with this lower license could add like an activity like an email or a telephone call to the already existing case.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That would be a good way around it.
Yeah, would you be able to send me, is there like the normal Microsoft data sheet on the licenses or a link to it or something?
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it. We've got one we use internally that I can share with you.
Perfect, that'd be great. And the prices as well would be useful.
Absolutely. No problem whatsoever.
I didn't see campaigns mentioned, or did I miss it?
Yes.
Campaigns was
Yes.
mentioned.
No, very good point. Very good point. So there is some basic marketing functionality out of the box with Dynamics where you can create campaigns and marketing lists. So marketing lists becoming one of two flavors, either static or dynamic. So static being, these are the people that I want on my list and I don't want it to change unless I change it, and dynamic being, give me a list of all our clients in Saudi Arabia that have bought something from us in the last 12 months over this value that fluctuates as and how we see fit. And then you can use campaigns to record specific activity against a particular bit of outbound. So I don't know, you're running a conference in China and you want to do a couple of phone call, emails, etc. It has some basic emailing functionality and the ability to create and schedule and push out phone calls to the people that should be making them, and does basic sort of financials around that as well. So how long the call should take, who's doing it, how much it costs, that kind of stuff.
Cool. And I'm guessing from what you see on the screen, you can do the same with surveys, and that the results of the survey appears on the person's contact records.
Everything that's in green here is actually a third-party automated marketing add-in called Click Dimensions. So anything that's in blue is out of the box, anything that's green is additional. But Click Dimensions is, yeah, that's the full-on like automated emails, campaign automation, tracking visits to websites, things like that. It is a fantastic tool, but one I could talk about for hours, so I'll save you the benefit of that.
Who is the third party?
Did you say it's Click Dynamics, Lucy?
Click Dimensions.
Click Dimensions.
Oh, okay.
I can send you the details on that. It's kind of a Dynamics 365 specific version of something like MailChimp or .mailer, which you may be using already. Its main benefit is that it sits in Dynamics and you can see every single bit of interaction someone's had with you, so how long they've spent on your web page, if they've downloaded any white papers, and it can trigger sort of automations depending on how they interact with you.
Okay, that's good.
So I apologise in advance if you receive a lot of marketing emails from us because you've been put on one of our campaign automation journeys.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. I haven't got any more questions. I don't know if anyone else has.
No, I think it's been
Yeah.
very comprehensive.
In terms of